What's up, everybody? It's Clark here with a bittersweet episode of the BOS Sports Blogcast as the Atlanta Hawks lose tonight 152-150 to the Chicago Bulls. The Hawks have now lost 3 games in a row, or 15-15 on the year, and are 3 games under 500 at 5-8 at home. The Hawks in the final seconds with the Chicago Bulls missing so many free throws, including Matas Buzelis, who went 1 for 2 from the line, had a chance in the final seconds to win the game. Trae Young, he had a final shot opportunity off an Onyeka Okongwu screen. It's a pretty solid shot overall. It's a nice play, maybe a little bit rushed in the shot. Initially in real time, it looked like Tre Johnson, he got some contact on Trae Young, but in the close video slow review, saw there's no foul, and so it was just unfortunate the Hawks had to lose that way. The game felt lost seconds earlier, and the Hawks had another shot there in the final seconds with the Bulls reopening that window, missing free throws. It was a bittersweet day, aforementioned, as Trae Young, he's back in the second game. And he's potentially quelled much of the haters tonight with a monstrous 35-point game, 7 for 8 from the three-point land. A monstrous shooting performance from Trae Young, unlike we've seen in years, really potentially since his shoulder injury. He went 10 for 15 from the field today. And we've seen him last season. He had some clutch shooting performances, some gaudy shooting performances in the fourth quarter. Those would almost always come after a slow start to the game. And he did have a little bit of an awkward start to the game, but the shooting was there the entire time. It's something we exactly want to see from Trae Young. If he can get back to those shooting numbers like he had in 21-22, this Hawks team has a real chance to make some noise in the first round or so in the playoffs. So I like Trae's effort as well on defense tonight. Aforementioned, there's a fair amount of sloppiness on that side of the ball, especially in the opening sequence, as well as the play in the closing minutes of the game where Kobe White got a drive-by on him. But we'll get to that in a second. Of course, in this broadcast, we focus on 3 keys to whether or not a basketball team wins the game. Chicago Bulls won 2 out of 3 of those, with the Hawks turnover margin, I believe it was 11-2, just very close. 11-10. The Hawks had 1 less turnover than the Bulls did. But they allowed the Chicago Bulls to shoot from the field 56.7%, 47.6%. Very lucky with those kinds of numbers. The Hawks were only down 2 at the end of the buzzer score. Of course, aforementioned, they had some struggles from the free throw line closing minute, and they did the whole game as they went 26 for 39, 66.7% from free throw land today for Chicago Bulls. But as mentioned by Quinn Snyder, they did a great job rebounding, and that was another key point in the game where the Hawks could have done better, as they lost that margin 55-51. As well, they out-rebounded the Hawks on the offensive glass 11-6, with Zachary Shea, Tre Johnson, Dyson Daniels having the lone 6 offensive rebounds for the Hawks. None from the center. Now, Quinn Snyder, of course, loves putting Onyeka Okongwu out in the corner and running true 5-out motion offense sets, but might see a little bit more of his variation of the 5-out motion offense set, with such as he had with Clint Capella, where he'd put him at the top and key, maybe even a little bit 4-out offensive sets, get a little bit more offensive rebounding, but a little bit more what he's speaking towards in his interview, especially as the boxing out. It's pretty hard to box out Josh Giddey, who had the high rebounding high for the Bulls, a 9. Onyeka Okongwu's counterpart, Vucevic, I believe he only had 5. So it's going to be a tough day when you give up those kinds of shooting numbers and rebounding numbers to any kind of team. The Chicago Bulls, they got hot early. We'll get to that in a second. Jalen Johnson, Josh Giddey, they both almost had triple-doubles again. Jalen Johnson, he had a Hawks high of 36 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 for 7 from three-point land, 57% from field. Onyeka Okongwu, he had a gaudy 23 points, 7 rebounds. Vucevic had 6 rebounds, not 5. Previously mentioned a second ago. Misremembered. Josh Giddey led the Bulls in rebounding with 9, aforementioned, as he had a 19-point, 12 assists, 9 rebound day. Pete Krejci had absolute brilliant shooting performance with 20 points. He also dislocated his finger. Quinn Snyder didn't directly affirm that, but he didn't deny it either when asked about it in the post-game interview. So hopefully there's no lingering things going on with that that prevents him from being out. Zachary Rizachet, he also had a brilliant 17-point game. Great shooting from the field. We'll get to the other numbers later in this episode. As great of a day as Rizachet had shooting the ball, he was tasked along with Dyson Daniels in that starting lineup with guarding Kobe White. And of course, that means on some switches guarding Josh Giddey as well. And we saw Rizachet, his on-ball defense has vastly improved since he initially got in the league last November. But we still see stars like Josh Giddey, as we saw early on in the third quarter, get that foul on Rizachet after the switch off. Interesting, Trae Young, he was guarding Okoro in the corner. And of course, that led to the very hectic opening sequence. I feel like set a very dangerous tone for the Sox team early on. Of course, Trae Young, he had that amazing nutmeg play, assist to Onyeka Okongwu just a few seconds in the game, 13, 14, 15 seconds. The Hawks were up 2. Brilliant basket, easy score created by Trae Young. Looked like the Hawks would be rolling. And there comes the defense down the other end. And Trae Young, of course, he's guarding the Bulls starting small forward, Okoro. He makes a baseline cut. Trae Young, he makes a move for the ball to try to steal it. And instead of a contest for the basket, I feel like maybe in a couple weeks after Trae Young gets his legs a little bit more under him, he gets that steal. So I like the move. It was an aggressive move on defense. He was aggressive multiple points in the day. Very solid overall, except for a few sequences, which we'll talk about later. So I like the decision and just unfortunate sequence. I feel like maybe if he contested that, the tone might have been different. Might not have been felt like as easy as a basket for the Bulls, and might not have gotten off to such a hot start. Tre Johnson, he had an and one at 9:37 first quarter as the Bulls were up 13-8 at that point. First time Tre Johnson had ran the offense at that point. He was the primary ball handler coming up the court. Up until that point, Trae Young was running the offense, and things felt a little bit hectic. Of course, it's a second game back. Opening sequences, they're always very tough in the NBA. We often see wild swings that do not dictate the entire game. So Isaac Okoro, who was guarded by Trae Young, got a switch. And Tre Johnson, kick out, made a nice connect test, but Okoro, he hit the 3 to give the Bulls 11-point lead, 21-10. The Bulls had already made 8 field goals at that point, 5 threes, and Okoro was 3 for 3 at that point with 2 threes. Of course, Trae Young, he was the opening defender on Isaac Okoro, and he absolutely went off. So that's a very concerning point in the ball, especially with this Bulls team, or really any other team, with a stalwart combo of guards. You look at the Celtics, they have Peyton Pritchard, Derek White. Drew Holiday is no longer there. He's traded away. Jaylen Brown, he sometimes switches to guard, so that's a very stalwart backcourt. You look at the Wizards, they've got nice backcourt. Almost every team, from the good teams to bad teams, this Eastern Conference NBA has a nice backcourt. Of course, the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, OG Anobily's nice combo as well. They were one of the top teams. Pistons, Cade Cunningham, maybe the best point guard in the NBA. So very tough Eastern Conference combos of guards. Going to be interesting to see with Trae Young coming back, how those opening sequences play out with defense. As the upside of him being there with offense, we saw it with that assist on Onyeka Okongwu. We saw it throughout the game with his 7 for 8 shooting from the field. And absolutely get off to a blazing hot start with Trae Young on the floor. So 7:51 left. Zachary Riche, he hit a 3 on his way to 17 points today. Pulling the Hawks within 3 points, 25-22, with 5 minutes 43 seconds left in the first quarter. Okay, we have our play of the game. I didn't write down what time it happened at in the game, but he had a monstrous block. We'll see here in the highlight. He had 3 blocks on a day. Nice day for Mo Gay. The Bulls, they are one of the thinner teams in the front court of the NBA, so it's a nice day for Mo Gay to flourish and hopefully expand his game a bit. Here we go, play of the day with Mo Gay. 4 minutes, 11 seconds left. Huge block. He goes down to heat with the Bulls player. Bit concerning. They both get back up just fine. So nice, we see it 3 times. All right. So Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, aforementioned Trae Young had that nutmeg assist in the first quarter. It was pretty neat. So Kevin Huerter, former Atlanta Hawk, he's now with the Chicago Bulls after some time in Sacramento. He had a layup to give the Bulls back an 8-point lead, 34-26, with just over 2 minutes left in the first quarter. As that sloppy opening sequence, really, the Hawks had a hard time overcoming it the entire game as they were looking up. There's certainly other sloppy sequences, and we'll get to them later on here, that also hurt them, but I don't feel like none more so than having the Chicago Bulls start out 8 for 10 from the field. That's a pretty tough way to start the game. Trae Young, he had an impressive 3-point shot near the end of the first quarter, getting a runner off of one leg. 38-36 lead with 32 seconds left, the first Atlanta Hawks lead, so they did overcome that early deficit. Patrick Williams, he had a bucket for the Bulls, giving them the tie, 38-38 at the end of the first quarter. Pete Krejci, he was called for a blocking foul early in the fourth quarter. Chicago Bulls is very close play. Is a nice defensive effort by Pete Krejci. He was just maybe a tick late. Maybe could have been called the other way. Jalen Smith, he got both free throws as he was the one who got the blocking foul. Zachary Riche, he got one of his 3-point buckets at around the 8-minute 44-second mark, giving the Hawks the 47-46 lead over the Bulls. Riche, another 3-pointer, 50-47. There was a little bit of lazy defense by the Hawks. And DeSomo, he absolutely had a field day. It'd be interesting to read his final line in my notes later where the final stats are. But he absolutely had a field day getting out in transition. I had a sneeze there. I guess we'll pause for station identification while I get sneezes out of the way. There we go. Oh, that's aforementioned. Somo, he absolutely had a field day on this Hawks lack of transition defense, getting back after missed shots, after buckets, just everywhere. He's wreaking havoc, getting back on the other side of the court. It'd be a simple thing to fix, you'd think. Maybe not. So 2 straight Josh Giddey buckets put the Bulls back up 54-50 with 7 minutes left in the second quarter. At that point, a little bit after that, the Hawks had an interesting lineup with Austin Newell working in, along with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, and Zachary Riche. And a little bit tougher stretch for the Hawks on that play during that time. Tre Johnson, he had a scary foul in the second quarter. He had a hard foul, got back up, seemed okay. Luke Kennard, seconds later, after Jalen Johnson stayed in to shoot free throws, he took a foul, and Jalen Johnson got checked out in the locker room. So it'll be interesting to see their status for Tuesday's game. Both Jalen Johnson beat Krejci versus the Bulls. potential for one of them to be out. Hopefully not. Ricochet, he had another three, tying Bulls Hawks 57-57 with just over 6 minutes left in the second quarter. The second quarter, both teams at 57 with 6 minutes left. So shortly after that, 4 minutes, 4 seconds, second quarter, Jalen Johnson's back. All seems okay for now. Hopefully there's nothing lingering, such as a contusion or whatnot. And if there is, hopefully that's all it is. So Dyson Daniels bucket on break. Seconds later, 65-64, Bulls lead Hawks by 1 with just over 3 minutes, 50 seconds left. Tre, he had a step back jumper. Buzelis, he had a three-pointer at the 1 minute, 42 second mark as the Bulls went back up by 7 points in the final 90 seconds. Trae Young, he had 13 points in just under 13 minutes. He was on minutes restrictions again. So 75-71 Bulls led by 4 with 90 seconds left. 15 points, 8 assists, and around 13 minutes for Trae Young. But the Hawks were down 10 points at halftime, 83-73. Can't give up 83 points at halftime, expect to win the game. It's just awful defense effort. It was talked on the broadcast before the start of the game. Rotations, talking about rotations, and it's a good point to make. The Hawks defense is quite rotation heavy, and especially looking at Trae Young coming back. Hopefully some of those rotations become a bit stronger, but you also saw Trae Young give up those 8 points early to Okoro, so some thought process is going to have to be made about opening sequences and who guards who in the opening sequences. Some tough decisions. So they were 55.6% from the field for the Hawks. As well, they were 57.1% from three-point land. So the offense was absolutely humming for the Hawks in the first half. 19 assists, 7 turnovers, a little bit turnover heavy. They did clean that up in the second half. Ricochet, he played just under 13 minutes, was 5 for 7 from first half, 14 of his 17 points, 4 for 6 from three-point land. Jalen Johnson, he was already up to 14 points. Only 4 rebounds, 2 assists at that point. He came back a bit alive after he went out with that injury. Onyeka Okongwu, he already had 17 points at that point. Only 3 rebounds in the first half. Trae Young, he had 15 first half points, 7 assists, just under 14 minutes played. 13 minutes, 54 seconds in the first half. Luke Kennard, he played 6 minutes, just under 7 minutes in the first half. 0 field goals, 2 personal fouls. Not very good. 0 everywhere, except he got 1 steal and 2 assists. Asa Newell, how did he play in the first half? Do I have him in here? I might not. Oh, yes, I do. 5 minutes, 19 seconds, 1 defensive rebound, 1 personal foul, 1 turnover. Not a good day for Asa Newell after he had a nice performance just the other night. Pete Wallace, no minutes in the first half. Bulls stats, they shot 60.9% from the field in the first half, 50% from three-point land, 21 assists, 5 turnovers. Terrible. The Hawks forced them up to 11 turnovers in the second half, so defense did pick up some in the second half. While Trae Young is returning from a recent injury, I also have to keep in mind that Jalen Johnson, he had that shoulder surgery last year. I think he's going to be a bit more aggressive on defense when things come down to it later down the road in the year. Hopefully the Hawks can stay near the 6th seed. Just want to stay out of the play-in as far as seedings go in the playoff. Gotti to talk about right now being a 15-15 team, 9th in the Eastern Conference, going up to the 6th seed. But that would be ideally where we would be at and be a very dangerous 6th seed with our players hopefully healthy and Jalen Johnson being more physical on defense at that point in the playoffs. Really don't want them to go there this regular season. Just really want to keep him healthy, and this year's been tough so far. See what goes on the trade deadline, but we're expecting coming in this year hopefully to make some noise in the playoffs and really build for next year and hopefully contend by next season, but things are not looking so good at that point. We're currently a 500 team, bubble to play in, and some tough decisions might have to be made as far as maybe trading someone away for more draft capital, such as we did with DeAndre Hunter last year. So moving on back to this game, getting to the third quarter. Trae Young, he's back in there. Starting lineup, Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Shea, Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu. Dyson's on Josh Giddey, their number one defender, on their number one ball handler. And you have Reza Shea on Kobe White. Trae Young on Isaac Okoro, Jalen Johnson on their power forward, and Onyeka Okongwu on Vucevic. So that combination versus those matchups did not quite work so good tonight, and it's kind of scary. This being the Chicago Bulls, as mentioned, the backcourt defense is kind of where the key is, and of course, Isaac Okoro had those 8 points early on. Trae Young's second game back from injury, so hopefully he's able to play those more extensive matchups. I guess if he's fully healthy and fully built up later on in the year, you'd probably want to see him versus Kobe White and have Reza Shea versus Okoro. But that might make some tougher decisions for them with switches there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do on defense, to say the least. So Trae Young, he had the third quarter opens with Trae Young getting his 18th point on another 3-point shot. Aforementioned, he was 7 for 8 from 3-point land on the day. One of his best shooting performances all around we've seen in years. Looks like old Trae Young before shoulder injury, as previously mentioned. So hopefully we're going to be getting that from now on from Trae. Josh Giddey, he responds by getting to line. On the other end, foul by Reza Shea, the aforementioned Zachary Shea foul on Josh Giddey. After the switch, Dyson, Kobe, they switched off on screenplay. And Reza Shea just needs to get a little bit more in tune with his on-ball defense. The superstars still taking advantage, getting the line versus Reza Shea. It can be a combination of watching film as well as reaction and defensive drills for Reza Shea going forward to get to that level. I think he still can. Trae Young, moments later, he had a 30-point three-pointer along with his 1 foot 3-point shoot, 1 foot 3-point shot off of one leg from the first half. 30-foot three-pointer from Trae Young. We're seeing exactly what we want in Trae Young's jump shot. It was his 21st point of the game at that point. Jalen Johnson, he had and one with 5 minutes, 45 seconds left to go in the third quarter, on his way to 36 points on the day, drawing the Hawks within 3 points as the Hawks were trimming into that 10-point halftime deficit. That point with 5 minutes, 45 seconds left in the third quarter is 197. Already 100 points were the Bulls were with nearly half the game left. Vit Krejci 3-pointer with 3 minutes, 25 seconds left in the third quarter. 108-107 was the score at that time. Seconds later, Vit Krejci appeared to dislocate a finger on a tough play, but he stayed in for free throws. He was fouled on that play. After a brief medical visit to the sideline, it appeared and stated on the broadcast, it appeared they dislocated a finger and they had popped it back in. He stayed in, shot the free throws. So tough play by Vit Krejci. The Sumo, who absolutely haunted the Hawks all game, playing at the 114-112 mark. Bulls brief lead, but Trae Young answers with another 3-pointer. 115-114 Hawks lead over Bulls. Bulls got the lead back at the end of the third quarter by another Ayo Dosunmu bucket. Vit Krejci, he was 6 for 7 that point before the finger dislocation. This was after the finger dislocation. He hits another three-pointer, gives the Hawks a 118-116 lead. The sixth three-pointer of the day, 11-minute, 26-second mark of the fourth quarter. He was 6 for 7 at that point. See where he ends up when we read that final stat line here in just a second. The Hawks, they challenge the play just a bit later. 11-minute, 13-second mark on Onyeka Okongwu. He's deemed to have a successful steal on Josh Giddey. No foul, and the Hawks have the ball. It was Onyeka Okongwu's second steal of the game, and he got blocked seconds later as well, as he had a great game for the Hawks. 6:35 left in the fourth quarter. Hawks starters down 129-125 in the game. The Hawks starters were in the game, down 129-125 with 6:35 left in the fourth quarter. But Josh Giddey got to the free throw line again, makes it 131-124. It makes them both with 6 minutes, 20 seconds left. Zach Riche, clutch offensive board and put back, 131-126. But Bulls answer at the other end, as they often had, 133-126, just not getting those stops after those buck baskets. And rebounding, as Quinn Snyder mentioned, and their Drew often killed, as they'd often get offensive board as well when those stops happen. Regis Shea had another great effort on the offensive glass, giving them a second chance at the 5-minute, 16-second mark. Again, seconds later, as he had a nice closing sequence for the Hawks. Trae Young, another three-pointer with his 27-point down 133-129. But Matas Buzelis answers on the other end with a three-pointer. His 27-point of the day, 136-129. Bulls lead by 7 with just over 4 minutes left to play. JJ hook shot, 139-136. A minute later, 3 minutes left in the game. Tre Johnson had a huge slam dunk, 143-120 with 2 minutes left. Just seconds before that, Kobe White, he got by Trae Young on a drive and layup, and what was a concerning defensive play, as I mentioned earlier. Ideally, later on, Trae Young's got his legs back under him for being out for so long. Hopefully, he can guard player like Kobe White a little bit more effectively. Certainly didn't on that closing sequence there, just about over the 2-minute mark. And then seconds later, Tre Johnson, he had a monster slam dunk. 143-140, 2 minutes left. Tre Johnson, he got another bucket. 143-142 on a great assist from Trae Young. Hawks down by 1 with just under 90 seconds left. Josh Giddey, he then hit a 3. Okoro, he got an and 1 attempt. Missed the free throw. Bulls lead back up to 6, 148-142. And they'd only score 4 more points the rest of the game compared to the Hawks' 8. And that'd still be enough. That was the score with 48 seconds left, 148-142. The Hawks, nice 8 points in 48 seconds. Pretty good offensive production down the stretch. Tre Johnson, he did have an untimely turnover at the 1 minute and 3 second mark, as well as aforementioned Trae Young. He got broken down on ball defense versus Kobe White, 2 minute and 14 second mark. Really hurt this Hawks team in the closing sequences. Those were much more untimely problems for the Hawks than the last shot really was. It was a decent shot. Aforementioned, as said in the top of this episode, Trae Young, he got around Tre Jones on the screen on Onyeka Okongwu. It was a close play, and Trae Young, he might have rushed the shot a little bit. There didn't appear to be any contact in the replays and close-ups in the replays. Maybe Trae Young felt like there's a little bit of contact. Not sure. He was certainly a little bit angry going off the court, but that might have just been a trash-talking thing with the Bulls player. So, be interesting to hear about that. Did not hear much about that in the broadcast post-game. So, the Giddey 3, Coro and 1 attempt. Those, of course, hurt as well. those, along with the Jalen Johnson turnover 103 and Trae Young getting beaten off the drive 2 minutes 14 seconds, those were the key points in which the Hawks lost this game, the final seconds. Of course, there's multiple points earlier in the game where the Hawks could have won or made up the margin versus the Bulls. I mean, allowing 83 points in the first half is just terrible work. So, several ways the Hawks lost this game, but as far as going down the last 150 seconds or so, in 2.5 minutes, I'd highlight those plays. Trae Young, he got his final points with a three-pointer, bringing the Hawks within 150 to 147, giving them that chance with 23 seconds left, and putting them into that free throw shooting game. Interesting scenario, and hopefully one we don't see until maybe a first round of playoffs or second round, as far as having to be done in a clutch situation. But he got the Hawks there to that situation. Jalen Johnson did too with clutch three-pointer, his 36-point, bringing the Hawks within 150 to 151. And here we are, where we started at the top of this episode with Matas Buzelis at the free throw line, going 1 for 2. Trae Young, after a timeout, getting the ball at midcourt, past midcourt, and then bound play. Going past Tre Johnson, he got a fairly clear shot at the basket. And as I said several times, shot might have been a bit rushed. He might have felt like he was fouled, so he might have went up thinking he might get and one attempt. So, be interesting to hear a little bit more about that final sequence and interviews that come out in the final days if anyone asks those kinds of questions. So, Bulls win 152-150. Aforementioned 57.6% on the day for the Bulls. Looks like the rebounding stat I have there is incorrect, so I'm not going to read that. I have to wonder if these other ones are as well. After that, they might be. Keep reading until I see an error. All right, Josh Giddey had 19 points, aforementioned, 12 assists, 9 rebounds. That looks correct. 2 steals, 6 for 12 shooting from the field. Ayo Dosunmu, he had 6 field goals. That sounds about right. One of them being a three-pointer, 13 points. A lot of those leak-out baskets. Old Hawks player, Kevin Huerter, 21 minutes, 16 points. Zach Collins, 10 points, solid game for him. Jalen Smith, he played some. For Atlanta Hawks. Zachary Richer had a final of 17 points. I think some of these team stats are off. I guess I'm not going to read these out. Just have to check them out on the website, I guess. Jalen Johnson, 36 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 22 points. Dyson Daniels, a little bit slow day, if this 8 points is correct. 3 for 9, shooting from the field, 39 minutes. I guess I got them right here on my phone. So, I just go this way. Yep, 3 for 9, shooting on the field. Tough day for the Hawks. Shooting from the line. 39 assists for the Hawks. 35 rebounds. Oh, gosh. Looks like these are right. And my 3 key stats were wrong. What was I reading earlier? Alright, so 3 key stats, whether or not team wins the basketball game. I had field goal percentage right. Rebounds were 40, 39. Turnovers were 10, 11. I had the rebounds wrong. I don't know where I got 55 and 51 rebounds from. Oh well. Correction from earlier. Alright, before we get out of here, we got some interesting baseball news. Wilson Contreras, he was traded today to the Red Sox. Is breaking news. Just reported. right before I got on here. Still haven't heard the details of the trade. Haven't got on with that. Other shocking news today, Japanese phenom Munetaka Murakami is joining the White Sox on a 2-year contract for $34 million, as reported by ESPN Jeff Passan. While the AL Central had 2 top teams, the lowest ERA and total runs allowed this season, the Royals and Guardians, the AL Central also didn't have a team in the top 10 in strikeouts or whip, as there's a lot of mixed successes in the AL Central pitching-wise, and some teams are a little bit top-heavy. There's certainly no back in the rotation depth really to any of the teams in the AL Central, and there's some glaring bullpen spots in all of them. Combine all that with the fact that some guys might not do as well in 2026, I think the AL Central is a good fit for Munetaka Murakami. The only potentially better fit as far as pitching-wise might be the AL West and his hitting style that is. So I think it's a place where he can excel, and he'll certainly get all the opportunities in the world being with the White Sox and them not having a large depth of talent, having one of, if not the worst record in the league 4 years now. So hopefully that helps him out as well. Be interesting to see the White Sox doing a little bit of damage next year. I believe the Braves are, now that the teams are all on NBA style record, we'll be facing several of those teams next year. So just be interesting to see whether or not we face them at home or on the road, and that might vary by team. So there's been a large swath of Japanese stars coming in the leagues in this decade of the 2020s. Of course, Kodai Senga of the Mets, Roki Sasaki and Yoshinobu Yamamoto to the Dodgers, Shota Managa to the Cubs, and just aforementioned Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he just had one of the most impressive postseason cumulative performances we've ever seen, and it made me wonder where it ranked all time. Looking it up, if you cut postseason cumulative pitching performances and value ERA and innings pitched, along with winning the championship as being your 3 key stats and 3 priorities to ranking these pitchers, Yamamoto is definitely a top 10. Yamamoto's 2025 MLB postseason performance is certainly a top 10 performance any way you cut it in those categories, as he had the impressive 1.4 whip with incredible 174 opponents average, 1.45 ERA, 174 average, and a 0.78 whip. He also had 33 strikeouts as well. He threw just over 37 innings, 37.1 innings. As well, he had the impressive back-to-back performance, throwing 2.2 innings in relief the day after starting Game 6 of the World Series and Game 7 of the World Series. He threw 2.2 innings of relief, 2 2/3, for a cumulative of 8.2 innings of 1-run ball in 6th and 7th game of the World Series. Really saved the Dodgers as their pitching was on the ropes. There certainly have been comparable to greater single-game performances in MLB postseason history, such as the late, great Roy Halladay's no-hitter in the 2010 NLDS Game 1 versus Cincinnati Reds. And if you value innings pitched, ERA plus World Series victory. But looking at cumulative pitching performances, if you value innings pitched, ERA, and the World Series victory, Yoshinobu Yamamoto's stands out as one of the greatest cumulative postseason performances of all time. Other ones that would notably rank higher than Yoshinobu Yamamoto, just 11 years ago, Madison Bumgarner pitched 52.7 inning, 52 2/3 innings of 1.03 ERA ball. But certainly, I would rank that ahead of Yoshinobu Yamamoto's 2025 postseason cumulative performance. 2014 Giants team, of course, won the World Series that Dodgers did, is they had a great run early in the 2010s. Other performances clearly ahead of Yamamoto's rank. Probably be by those priorities. And it's tough to rank these three performances between Bumgarner's and these next two I'm about to mention. Which one is the top? Depends on which way you cut it, but I think this one definitely beats Bumgarner's by a little bit. Just aura-wise, in 2001, Curt Schilling, he pitched 48.3 innings, a 1.12 ERA for the Arizona Diamondbacks, who ended the Yankees West for a four-peat. That would have been 4 straight World Series by the Yankees if the Diamondbacks didn't do something about it. It would have been 5 in 6 years as well. Although, see that ERA was just slightly above Bumgarner's and innings just a little bit less, so bit dubious. Splitting hairs, I think they're great performances, but quite a bit more aura to Curt Schilling's 2001 postseason performance. And others, they have Schilling ranked above in their advanced player ranking systems using multiple combinations of stats. Other people have that performance as well above Bumgarner's. Maybe the top performance, if you cut it by ERA-wise and innings-wise, cumulative with the World Series, might be Orel Hershiser's 1988 postseason 42.7, 1.05 ERA. Could be argued as better, as several people have it in their advanced players rating system as better performance. Notable performances that I rate Yoshinobu Yamamoto's 2025 cumulative postseason performance better than would be Cliff Lee in 2009. I believe that's a year after the Phillies won it. So no championship there, but he did throw 40.3 innings pitched, a 1.56 ball. Very impressive performance for 2009 Phillies, and had a perfect 4-0 record. 1995, Orel Hershiser was a part of the World Series losing Cleveland Indians, who lost, of course, to the Braves in their first Atlanta World Series championship. Orel Hershiser, he threw 35.3 innings pitched, and I did not write down his ERA, but it was impressive. So 2019, to give a player that I would rank Yoshinobu Yamamoto's 2025 postseason cumulative performance above, who did win a World Series, would be 2019 Steven Strasburg. He threw an impressive 36.3 innings pitched, 1.98 ERA, and was perfect 5-0, winning 5 games for the Washington Nationals in that 2019 World Series. I mean, that was an absolute all-time impressive performance by Steven Strasburg's. And I think Yoshinobu Yamamoto's tops it by at least just a little bit. Another performance I have to mention that is better than, it hurts to do so, and he would have the number one all-time postseason cumulative performance if his team had, in fact, won the World Series, if you cut it by ERA and innings pitched. And that is, of course, John Smoltz in 1996. I again forgot to write down some of the stats. I believe he had a 0.96 ERA and a 30-something innings pitched. He's in the high 30s as well. So that would have ranked higher cumulative innings pitched and ERA-wise than any of the other previously mentioned. But unfortunately, the Braves, they couldn't pull it out. They lost the Yankees, and they had to leave it up to Curt Schilling and Randy Johnson in 2001 to stop the Yankees finally from all those World Series championships. So, aforementioned, the Hawks jumped around subjects a little bit here. It's an exciting day, slow news day here for Atlanta Braves. Slow news week. Of course, nothing's really happened since Robert Suarez cut their minor league transactions, reposted that information online. Switching back to the Hawks here, their next game is Tuesday night. I believe KP, another week, will hopefully get an update, as 2 weeks ago he was given, last week, He was given an update to be updated in 2 weeks, being removed from play with the sickness. And so hopefully by our 29th game, I believe against the Thunder, we'll get an update for that. Tuesday night, play Chicago Bulls. I believe, as the broadcast already mentioned, lost a season series to them, so that's kind of concerning if we were to get in a tiebreaker situation in the play-in. If you're in the play-in, you're in the play-in. It doesn't matter, really. If you're on the play-in and we're vying with the sixth seed with the Bulls, then tonight's game could have potentially mattered in losing the tiebreaker to the Bulls tonight. Oh, be sure to stream previous episodes of BOS Sports Blogcast. Be back next week, likely with a clip heavy, I believe, next week, doing highlights of BOS Sports of 2025. So it'll be kind of like a clip show and a little bit of upfront game stuff from the past week or so. Be sure to stream our soap music, and we'll see you soon next week.